So Salman, a fight that a lot of people want to see, and a fight that's been talked about for a long time. But guys, before we get into the video, smash the like button on this video. Let's get this video to 100 likes plus. Salman, a fight that, a lot of people have wanted to see, and a lot of people, you know, have talked about for a couple years now, is Terence Crawford v Errol Spence. That is a super fight. I also think Jamel Charlo is a super fight, and I'd love to see that one as well if the Spence fight can't be made. How do you see a fight between them, especially after what Spence has suffered recently? How do you see those fights playing out?
Personally, I think Spence has obviously put that to bed, that car injury thing, because he fought Garcia and schooled him really. He won that fight better than anyone's beaten Danny Garcia before. Danny Garcia's given all the other guys a tough fight. But personally, that fight against Crawford, that's a proper fight. That's a really good fight because they're both technically sound fighters. Spence isn't going to be there. Spence isn't going to be there to get knocked out against Crawford. He's going to be behind the jab. He's going to be more technical on the inside. He's a better body puncher, way better body puncher than Sean Porter. He's more vicious when on the inside as well. I think Spence punches harder in my opinion as well. I just think he has, out of the two, Porter and Spence, I think Spence punches a bit harder than Porter, and he's a southpaw as well. So that's another, it's a different fight. It's a whole different fight. Where Porter was there to be knocked out, Spence isn't going to be there to get knocked out. So it's a lot harder to knock out a guy that's not there to be knocked out. That's more technically sound. Porter isn't technically sound. Porter's a guy that just throws wild punches, and he's there to get knocked out because he's so wild. Any good counter puncher would probably knock out Spence at the elite level, because he just rushes in. He doesn't see what's kind of coming back. He likes to take a shot to land 2-3 of his own. Whereas Spence and Crawford's going to be a chess match, and I think it could be a really close fight. I don't think Crawford's that good where he'd just completely outclass Spence and Spence won't win a round. No chance. I think that it'll be a competitive fight and it could go either way. To be honest, I'm 50-50 on that fight. If I was to pick, I would probably pick Spence by a little small margin though. Small margin. Very small margin.
I totally disagree. I think Terence Crawford will knock Spence out. I think we've seen them. I know styles make fights, but we've seen what Terence Crawford did to Porter, and I personally think that I think Spence is tough like Porter. Yeah, he's technically a better fighter. He's more technically sound, but I just think Crawford has that X factor. I think Crawford can go southpaw. He can fight orthodox, and I think he'll find a way, and I think he'll get to Spence as well. I do. I look. Porter's a guy with a great chin, and Spence and Terence Crawford took him out. Like, people keep doubting Terence Crawford. Just because he's a smaller guy, that doesn't mean he can hurt these bigger guys. He's proved it now. He fought a very rough Jeff Horn, and he battered Jeff Horn and stopped him. Yeah, he fought or passed it Amir Khan and Kell Brook, but yeah, he was putting a beating on those guys. Or Kell Brook did all right until he got caught, and now he's knocked out Sean Porter, which validates his power. Firstly, I think he's got a great... I think what might get Spence is the hand speed. And that's the problem with these welterweights. They don't have the hand speed of Terence Crawford. And that's a big problem. Spence is a good technical fighter, but he's quite one-dimensional. He comes forward and he fights a bit like Joshua, come forward. He has that kind of robotic style. And I think Crawford, with his angles, his movement, his punching power, his hand speed, I think he's too much for Spence right now. And then what you got to realize is Spence just recently suffered a broken eye socket or whatever he suffered with his eye. Then he's also been through a lot, throughout his career. I don't think he beats Terence Crawford. I just can't see it at this point. I think Terence Crawford will knock Errol Spence out. I'm calling it. I think Terence Crawford knocks him out.
What, early, late, or?
Yeah, like feel like Spence might do well early on, but later on in that fight, I just think Terence Crawford will take over, and I think he'll knock him out.
But how do you see him knocking him out? What, Spence makes a mistake or what?
It doesn't matter about a mistake. I know Terence Crawford will find a way, like he found a way tonight. It doesn't have to necessarily be a mistake, but he'll find a punch, and I believe he can hurt Errol Spence. Like he's proven now. He's proven he's a killer at welterweight because he just knocked out Sean Porter. No one's been. Spence couldn't do it. So he's already he's proven that he's got punching power at welterweight. So he can hurt any welterweight. Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, he can hurt anybody. I'm just being honest. He can hurt anyone. And Terence Crawford, he can hurt. I mean, he can hurt Errol Spence. I see Terence Crawford winning that fight, and especially with what Errol Spence has gone through of the last couple of years, I'm even more sure that Terence Crawford will win that fight, and I feel win by stoppage as well. I think it's going to be very hard unless Terence Crawford moves up like to 154 for anyone to even. It's going to be difficult to go the distance because the guy is a technically very sound fighter. He's got so many tools in the toolbox. Can go southpaw, orthodox, and he can punch hard. So what do you think?
Obviously, I don't think. You got to realize that tonight, yes, it was a great performance and he stopped Porter, but you got to realize styles make fights. Every style is a different thing coming to the table. You got to realize you can't say that, he's going to knock Spence out because he knocked Porter out. I don't believe in that. I just think styles make fights, and I just don't think Spence is going to be there how Porter was. You got to realize if someone's there for you to knock them out, it's a lot easier.
And
how does
Spence fight? How does Spence fight?
He boxes. He's not gonna be lunging forward, making those mistakes. He's very cautious. And if Crawford does come forward, tries to bully him, then we all know that Crawford could get hit on the body.
Okay, let's look at some of Spence's fights against Kell Brook. Did Kell Brook not land a lot of shots on him?
Yeah, but didn't go nowhere. He was all right.
No, I thought Kell Brook hurt him a few times in that fight.
No, I don't think he was hurt.
Someone
land something flush, it looks like you're. It's like, bro. People thought that Brook, hit those blows on Golovkin, but he wasn't hurt. It's not his legs went.
All right, okay. Let's talk about Sean Porter then. Was he not hurt in that fight? Many times I saw him buckle.
Yeah, but that was more like because of Sean Porter's style. I wouldn't say that. Oh no, he was hurt or his legs were gone. Even Sean Porter buckled in this fight. Sorry, Terence Crawford. It's just that style.
No.
Anyone that fights
there's a difference. Like
Keith Thurman buckled, Spence buckled.
There's a difference.
Crawford buckled.
There's a difference. Spence got caught with a lot of shots in that fight. Spence got caught with a lot of shots in that fight. I'm talking, he was getting nailed with big shots, and he literally got caught with shots, and he was bouncing back on the ropes. Crawford did that, but Crawford was more in control. Spence wasn't in control of what was happening in that fight. Hence why the fight was a split decision, and even a lot of people thought Porter won the fight. So the point I'm actually going to say, out of all the fights that Porter's had, that was probably the closest fight that that you could say Porter was involved in that he lost, where he probably deserved something.
Oh no, but I don't really look at it like that, because then Spence beat Garcia better than anyone else has beaten Garcia. So what would you say about that? Styles make fights. It's as simple as that. Every style is different. Crawford and Spence is going to be different.
Yeah, but Spence didn't knock out.
Porter versus Garcia is going to be different. It's all different.
You know what? And I even go as far as saying this, that I think Terence Crawford's punching power is worse than Errol's. I think Terence Crawford is a more dangerous puncher than Errol Spence, and I'll explain why. Terence Crawford has hand speed. So the punches that he throws, you don't see coming. And he has great timing. Errol Spence may have more power. Like he may if you get Errol Spence to hit someone clean, flush, he may have more power in that left hand. But Terence Crawford is fast. You don't see his punches coming. Like Porter didn't see his punch coming today. And they're the punches that knock you out. And I just think Terence Crawford right now, especially after this win, Terence Crawford's confidence is going to be on another level right now. Terence Crawford's going to believe that he's the best. Well, like after doing that to Sean Porter, nobody does that to Sean Porter. Terence Crawford is going to believe that he's top notch. He's now like Terence Crawford would have had doubts coming into this fight because Terence Crawford, everyone's been saying that he's not really fought a top welterweight. Although Terence Crawford would know about his ability, Terence Crawford is confident. He knows how good he is. But still, there would have been a nervousness there because Terence Crawford knew that he had to put in a great performance tonight because otherwise people would have started slating him. If he didn't get the knockout there, right, and that fight had gone 12 rounds, people would have started calling Terence Crawford a hype job and all this sort of stuff. But he found a way. He found a way, something that Spence couldn't do against Porter. He found a way. Even though Spence knocked down Porter, he couldn't find a way to separate himself. Crawford found a way tonight to separate himself. And that's the difference between Spence and Crawford. Crawford has more tools in the toolbox. Crawford is more versatile than Errol Spence. And Crawford will stop Errol Spence. You've heard it here first.
I don't believe in all of that because then you can say Spence separated himself against Garcia because he beat Garcia.
Yeah, but Garcia hasn't fought Crawford, so you don't know. You don't know how.
But what I'm saying from the other top welterweights at the time, like Thurman and Porter,
okay.
They had split decisions or whatever against things.
Crawford
won like
Crawford fought Kell Brook.
Crawford
fought Kell Brook, and who won more decisively?
That's what I'm saying. We can't really look at it like that. We can only. It's just every style is different. Styles make fights. Just because one guy knocked one guy out quicker and one guy was
styles make fights, but stylistically, Terence Crawford is all round better than Errol Spence. He's all round better. Like there's nothing Spence does. So you tell me why you think that Spence.
I don't think it's an easy fight for Terence Crawford against Spence.
I'm not saying it's an easy fight. What I'm saying is Terence Crawford is better than Errol Spence.
Even if he is better, it's going to be by a really small margin. I don't see it being by massive margins.
How can you say that?
I don't think that fight. I think that fight would be a very competitive fight. I can't see Terence Crawford completely schooling Spence.
Sean Porter was a competitive fight, but he knocked him out in the end. So, and that's what I believe will happen to Errol Spence. He'll get knocked out somewhere along the line.
Nah, I think he's better than Sean Porter. I think he's a bit better.
But he didn't show that when they fought. You know, it was much closer.
But obviously, maybe that sort of style didn't suit his, boxing.
But so what? And Terence Crawford's style, who's a lot better than Sean Porter, who's got more tools in the toolbox.
You got to realize that style maybe suited Terence Crawford the way Terence Crawford boxes. You got to realize.
Terence Crawford, no style suits Terence Crawford.
Yeah, but the thing is, people were, if I'm not mistaken, like he fought Kavalauskas, and people were like, oh no, he might not be able to take the punch. So I just think styles make fights.
And what happened to Kavalauskas? He got knocked out in the same round.
Yeah, but my point is that we can't really look at anything else. I just think you can only. When both of them get into the ring, I think that's when we'll know who's better and who's not. Because you got to realize that Spence is a totally different fighter to Sean Porter. It's going to be a whole different fight. It's not going to be a fight where, Spence is going to be, coming forward and just lunging forward where Crawford can just easily find that. It's going to be a very tight, close boxing match. That's my prediction. A tight, close boxing match that could go either way, but I would pick Spence to win in a close fight. You obviously think that Spence would get.
But when you say Spence to win in a I just don't see how's he gonna I don't really see Spence as a big puncher, right? Spence isn't a massive puncher. He's not. Mikey Garcia went the distance with him. Let's be honest. Crawford is a bigger. He's showing to be a bigger puncher.
Let's see when they fight. And also the thing is, obviously, I still believe that although he beat a very good fighter in Sean Porter, I still think that Crawford he needs to fight more guys at welterweight. And I still say the same again about Spence. I still think Spence needs to fight, Keith Thurman. He needs to fight Ugas. He needs to fight Terence Crawford, to cement his position. So I still think these guys need to fight one another. We're never going to know who the best guy is at this rate, the way what they're doing. We're not going to ever know because they're not fighting one another. And then when they do fight one another, it might be 3 years down the line when one guy might have got defeated. Because all we know, Spence could fight Ugas next and lose. Then what? So if they don't fight, then it kills that hype. Look what happened with Joshua Wilder. finished. That fight's finished now because they've both lost. Don't get me wrong, there'll still be hype, but not as much hype as when they were undefeated. So this fight needs to happen. I want to see who's the best. You know, I want to see who's the best. Is it Spence or is it Crawford? You know, I want to see who's the best. I want to see Crawford in with all the other guys. I don't want to see Crawford against Josh Taylor. It's not interesting. I want to see Crawford in a fight where people actually think, oh, like today, people thought it was going to be a hard fight, and it was a hard fight. But Crawford showed that obviously he's a class above, and he obviously got the knockout. So we want to see Crawford in more of these fights, continuously.
What do you see? Obviously, we should have done it in the other video, but I just want to ask you in this video. What do you see next for Sean Porter?
He'll probably just go back to fighting someone like a Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia.
Or does he step into the Conor Benn now region and fight someone like Conor?
Yeah, but the thing is, you got to realize, why would he fight Conor Benn? Because the thing is, Conor Benn doesn't bring. If he loses to Conor Benn, he's lost everything. Then you got to realize Porter's a guy that only fights. He ain't gonna fight Conor Benn because he's gonna look at it from a standpoint.
Okay. What about Jaron Boots Ennis?
He's not gonna fight Jaron Boots Ennis. That guy's on the way up. If he loses, then Porter's only going to fight the top guys.
Who wins against Porter v. Jaron Boots Ennis?
Probably Jaron Boots Ennis. I don't know.
What about Virgil Ortiz?
I don't know. But the thing is, once again, even Jaron Boots Ennis, right? We're only going to know. Like, you can be as... Like, it's like Crawford, right? As great as what people thought he was. Obviously, he's gone in there now and he knocked out Sean Porter. So you can solidify that. No, he is a top welterweight. There's no doubt now that Terence Crawford's a top welterweight now. You can't say that, oh no, he's fighting guys past, that he's a top welterweight.
Sonman, there's people out there that are saying that Jaron Boots Ennis is the best welterweight right now.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I just seen an interview before the fight. Someone was like, Jaron Boots Ennis beats Terence Crawford. Come on, I don't believe that.
There are, Salman, I'm probably of that thinking in a year's time, I think Jaron Boots Ennis will probably beat all of them.
But the thing is, we can't say that yet because name me one good fight he's fought.
Yeah, but bruv, they don't want to get in the ring with him. He's calling them out. He's said Porter, Thurman, let's go.
The thing is, he's going to have to mandate them. If he wants those fights, the only way he's going to get those fights is if he gets himself...
Okay, rank these three fighters in order. Jaron Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz and Conor Benn. Rank them in order.
For me, it's quite simple. Probably Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, and then Conor Benn.
Do you think Conor Benn is miles away from Ortiz?
I think Conor Benn's still in learning. I think Conor Benn's a lot. I think those guys are more skillful. They're better than Conor Benn. Conor Benn's in the learning phases right now. You know, Conor Benn's fighting Chris Algieri next. Conor Benn's fighting these guys. Do you know why? Because he's trying to gain the experience right now. He's not thinking of just. He wants to be in as many learning fights as possible before he gets in there with someone like Virgil Ortiz or someone, because he doesn't want to take a risk, you know, just going in there while it's not being good enough. That's why he's fighting Chris. Let's see what he does with Chris Algieri. Can he take Chris Algieri out? Let's see. The thing is, you got to realize, right? We can't judge it on him knocking out Samuel Vargas, because you got to realize, yeah, he caught Vargas and he got the job done. You know, against Granados, he beat Granados easily. Like that wasn't, Granados didn't throw no punches. He was running around, but he didn't do anything. But we need to see Conor Benn in a fight where the guy's actually going to fight back. Like somebody. I think he'll beat Chris Algieri out. If I'm going to be honest, I think Chris Algieri will lose, because I think Chris Algieri's best days were way behind him, way past it. He's coming for a paycheck. Chris Algieri. When was the last time Chris Algieri fought?
Can't remember, man.
Like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. So look, man, he's not coming for the right reasons. He's there for Conor Benn to learn, basically, pretty much. And until he gets in there with someone like an Abanesi or someone like that, we're never going to know how good Conor Benn is, because he's not fighting anyone in their prime yet, and that's doing well. You know, that's on a good run. Samuel Vargas wasn't on a good run. Granados, he wasn't really on a good run. We want to see him fight someone that can fight, you know, someone that's going to push his buttons, someone that's going to drop him, someone that's going to be there for the full 12 rounds. Then we'll see how good he is.
Okay, let's finish this video on the last thing. Give me a prediction. If Terence Crawford fought Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fought Jamel Charlo, how do you see those fights going?
I think Spence wins a close decision against Terence Crawford, and I think Terence Crawford beats Jamel Charlo. I think Terence Crawford will beat Jamal Charlo on points. And the reason why I say not the knockout, because I just think Jamal Charlo's a lot physically bigger and he'll be a lot more durable. Yeah, I think he'll be massive in that fight. You would see the difference. It would be quite big because Jamal Charlo's quite big. He's a big guy, man. He's not small. And I think Jamal. You got to realize Jamal Charlo ain't short like Porter.
Yeah, he's
big.
Yeah, he's big. Yeah,
he's like probably 5'11" or something.
Yeah.
So he's a big man. You got to realize Porter's small. You know, you got to realize people like Spence. Spence has a reach advantage over Crawford. He's got height advantage. He's got all of those things which Porter doesn't have. Porter's a midget, really. Like Porter's not look like a midget compared to Crawford. So that says it all.
Leave your thoughts, guys. Let us know what you think. Who do you think wins? Leave your predictions, Terence Crawford or Errol Spence. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.